Good morning and welcome to my show. I'm your host, Danny Graham, and I both invite and encourage you to walk with me on the road to wisdom. Good morning, y'all. Let's get to walking. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm your host, Danny Graham, and I welcome you all to another edition of the Road to Wisdom. Thank you for coming. Um, Today's topic, as you can see right here, is going to be know God's rules and make a playbook. I'll say it one more time. Know God's rules and make a playbook. Last night I was cleaning up here inside the man cave where I film at, and as I was cleaning, I had my headphones on. And I was listening to a sermon by Reverend Tony Evans, and he talked about a whole lot of things. And I prayed to God, Lord, give me inspiration to take something, a piece of what he was talking about, and take that as my subject matter, and then be able to talk about it today on today's show. And what he talked about, and I thought was a very good metaphor, is that if any of us that watch the NFL, the National Football League, they have 32 teams in the National Football League, 32 teams. They got the Dolphins, they got the Commanders, they got the Cowboys, they got the Raiders, they got the 49ers, they got the Steelers, Atlanta Falcons, they got Carolina Panthers, and I can keep going on and on. Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings. But one thing that all 32 teams have is they have a rule book. And that rule book is the book that they must follow to make sure that they stay within the guidelines of the game, make sure they know the policies and procedures, the do's and the don'ts. All teams must go by that book, that rule book. They must govern themselves by if there's a timeout, how many timeouts they can have, how many challenges they can have. If it's overtime, what happens here? If it's an extra point, they can do this. Whatever they want to do, that rule book tells them exactly what to do. And if they stray from it, there's going to be a penalty. Sometimes when they stray from the rule book, they can be penalized. They can have high fines, or they can be disqualified. There's a whole plethora of things that can happen if they don't follow to the rule book. But as long as they follow the rule book, and play the game the right way, and if they're just a better team than the other team that they're playing at the particular time, then they're going to win the game. Or um, when things happen, when penalties happen, fouls happens, whatever the case may be, the rule book tells the referees how to act accordingly. Well, each team also has a playbook. Now, the rule book governs what the whole football league must do, but the playbook is individual things that individual team comes up with to stay within the guidelines of the rule book. Rule book is and I'm gonna give you an example. The rule book is the Bible. For us Christians, non-believers that want to become Christians, this is our rule book. For the millions of people on earth, we have the same rule book. Same rule book. And individually, we have different plays in our individual lives, how God is gonna call us to do things. In your individual playbook, you may be someone that sings, a singer. You may be in the ministry of singing. Some individuals are going to be called to preach. Some individuals are going to be called to do what I'm doing. Their ministry is going to be maybe do podcasts or something. There are going to be some that's going to be doing missionary work. There's some that are going to help with sick and shut in. There's some that are going to help with all different aspects that you can do inside the church. Or any kind of particular skill set that you have to help the betterment of God. That God is going to have that individual playbook for you. Now, the rule book is this. We all got to follow this now. But each one of us have a different playbook. God may tell you to go over here and do this. Then in my playbook, he may tell me on Tuesday I need to do this. In your playbook, he may tell you on Wednesday to do this. But all those playbooks are going to be guided by this rule book. The same way in the NFL, Each of the 32 teams have their own individual playbook. Now it's up to us as the opposing team. When the opposing team, when they come together, they still follow the same rule book, but then it's up to the other ones to see whether or not they can figure out the other people plays. And that's the same thing we have in conversation. I may have a take the rule book, and I may come up with a different scheme on how I do something, but it's still within the guidelines of the rule book. I meet another Christian, and they read the same rule book, but then God formulates a playbook that they got to do. And then when we get together, we can share information. But a lot of times, just like in the NFL and football teams, they try to be competitive. I've seen preachers be competitive. I've seen so-called Christians be competitive. I see deacons be competitive. I've seen churches split up because they say supposedly they know the rule book, but because they got different plays and want to do different things, and then they are influenced by the enemy, then the playbook becomes all distorted. All distorted. When you talk to these individuals, they can tell you the rules in the rule book. They can quote out scripture and quote it back to you backwards and forward, but they're not applying the playbook. They're not applying the rule book to the plays because culture gets involved, ego gets involved, man gets involved, the enemy gets involved. He whispers, "No, this play is not going to work," but you can modify it. You can't modify the rule book. Rule book cannot be modified. You have to develop a relationship with God to truly understand the rule book. And then as he gives you deeper understanding of the rule book, which is the Bible, then you can modify your playbook. But when he modifies your playbook, it's going to be the right thing. It's not going to be something that's going to cause confusion. If your playbook that God gives you is confusion, causes strife, causes all kind of crazy stuff, then God ain't in that. God's not in that. That is the enemy getting in that playbook. He's modifying it. That is man getting in there. That is you being influenced by outside forces that are not godly. So make sure when you read the rule book, which you should read every day or as much as possible, that it gives you a deeper understanding on how to modify your playbook. And your playbook is how you carry yourself. Your playbook is once you read the rules out of the rule book and get a clear understanding, then it's going to affect your attitude. It's going to affect how you talk to people. It's going to affect where you hang out at. It's going to affect how you treat people when you become angry. It's going to affect how you treat people when you become aggravated. It's going to affect people that you one time maybe didn't care for. That you're going to have a different feeling for them. You're going to be able to talk to these individuals. You're going to be able to communicate with these individuals. The more you read that rule book, it's going to modify your current playbook, the center playbook. It should transform your center playbook and the plays that you ran as a center to now a more modified and better version as a Christian. Your center playbook, your Christian playbook should look totally different because in your center playbook, the plays are not going to work. That's going to be on the same page or the same, going to be in line with the rule book. Your playbook, your life, should always be in line with the rule book. When it falls out of line, then that means something's wrong with that play. And what you should do is identify that play, pray on it, repent, and take it out of your playbook because it is not within the rules. So make sure that you don't let your rule book get out of whack with your playbook. Playbook is very important, but the basis, the foundation of your playbook, which is your life, is a rule book, which is the Bible. So make sure that they stay hand in hand. Now I'm going to read you a couple of rules out of the rule book. And here's a violation that I see going on every day. It's going rampant. It's going rampant. And we saw this same play many. We read about this same play I'm about to tell you about in the rule book. But back then in Sodom and Gomorrah, they knew the rules, but for whatever reason, they let the enemy come in and it just totally modified the playbook and it was all out of whack. It was so bad, it was so egregious that God blew the whistle. He sent in the referees, it's his two angels, to go in there and pull out the player. There's only one player in the whole town of Sodom and Gomorrah that wasn't penalized. He and his family was not penalized because they were doing some crazy stuff too, but it wasn't as egregious as the rest of the people. Their playbook still was connected to the rule book. And so he sent his angels in there to save Lot and his family. Because Lot and his family, the game that they were playing was totally disoriented, totally just out of whack. And I'm going to read from the book of Leviticus, the 18th chapter, in the 23rd verse, correction, the 22nd verse. Leviticus, the 18th chapter, the 22nd verse, and it reads as follows: You shall not lie with mankind as womankind. It is an abomination. That's in the rule book now. That's in the rule book. The book of Leviticus, 18th chapter, the 22nd verse. I'll read it again. You shall not lay with mankind as womankind, in abomination. Now, the footnotes to that particular verse is: this proclaims the terrible sin of the abomination of homosexuality, where the man says, God says, whatever man says, God says is an abomination. God help America to see the awfulness of homosexual marriages. Now, that's what it says in the footnotes. Now, I'm not coming on here trying to bash anybody. I'm not coming here saying that if you have that particular lifestyle, that you deserve to be ridiculed, you deserve to be ostracized, because that's not how I feel. Because at the end of the day, you are a human. And if an individual comes to me that lives that particular lifestyle and they ask me, then I'm going to tell them in a nice and polite way. Not going to be rude, not going to be mean, not going to be mean spirited, not just going to say, no, get away from me, none of that crazy stuff. They're still a human being. They still deserve a level of respect, the same way I want respect. But it says here in the word, and if you're a believer, and if you're a Christian, then there's no way, in my opinion, that you can be living that lifestyle when it clearly says in the rule book that it is an abomination. And we all know abomination, the definition of that. That's just one of the rules. Early in the book of Exodus, God gave us several more rules in the rule book. In particular, he gave us 10 main rules that we must follow. First rule is, I am the Lord your God. You shall not have strange gods before me. That means God doesn't like idolatry. If you put anything else in front of God that you worship, then that is a major violation of the rules. Second rule, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Don't take God's name in vain. Don't just instantly assume. Watch what you say about God. Be careful how you use his name. A lot of these curses and expletives, people say, GD, GD this, GD that. Make sure you don't do that. Rule number 3, remember to keep holy the Lord's day. That's on Sunday, the seventh day. A lot of people I've seen, and I'm guilty of myself, cut the yard, do crazy stuff, don't do things, don't keep the day holy. Or you'll go to church and you go out after church and then you'll go in there in your yard and cut your yard and do this and do that. Work in the yards. Some people even work on Sundays. I worked on Sundays many a days. But we have to remember to keep that day holy. Rule number 4, honor your father and mother. See a lot of disrespectful kids, in this profession that I work in, even not in the profession. And that to me, that is very, very, that's a no-no. I've never been disrespectful to my parents. And when I see children being disrespectful to their parents, it makes me kind of cringe because I want them to just put my hands on them and shake them like, what are you doing? Especially when they're grown, or especially when they're very cognizant and know right from wrong. Talking back to your parents' stuff. If you don't agree with what your parents say, then you have the ability, self-control, to close your mouth, get in your car, and go home. Or just don't say anything. But a lot of times you live in a world now, if you say this and somebody, you feel somebody disrespects you in this kind of case, you automatically get into defensive mode. With the parents, you shouldn't get in defensive mode. They tell you something they don't like that you don't like, then you have the ability to self control to talk back or say something to them, but in a respectful manner. You still can get your point across in a very respectful manner. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to use venom. Have to use such disrespectful. Watch your tone. Like I always said, your tone, your delivery, and your approach are three things that you can control. If you use those three things wisely and do it the correct way, you're always going to be able to get your point across. You should not kill. You should not kill. Right now, the murder rate in the United States is ridiculous. It's through the charts. In the town I live in, a female was just recently killed, shot 5 times, and she was, I think, 5 or 6 months pregnant. Don't have any idea who did it, but just the level of violence is crazy. You should not commit adultery. That is crazy. All kinds of fornication, men sleeping with another man's wife sleeping with another woman's husband, same sex marriage. It's just crazy. It's running rampant. It's a norm now. Not worrying about waiting to get married or whatever, but shoot, people live together. All kinds of stuff. I did it. I ain't gonna sit here and try to be holier than thou, but I did it. But right now, it's normal to do that. It's abnormal if you don't do it, and that's crazy in today's world. You should not commit adultery. You should not steal. That's definitely a joke. We have so many people that's addicted to all different kind of things, all different kind of drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to all these multiple levels of drug, cocaine, heroin, meth, all kind of stuff. And when they run out of money, guess what they do? They go and steal stuff, steal like crazy. It is ridiculous. You should not bear false witness against your neighbor. See it all the time too. People will lie if they think they can get the upper hand or get something for nothing. They'll lie in a minute. They'll lie on their neighbors. They'll lie on their brothers. They'll lie on their family members, their sisters. It don't matter. It doesn't matter. They'll lie. You should not covet your neighbor's wife. Just like I said, that goes back to adultery. People look at other women's men look at other men's wives or women's or girlfriends, whatever the case may be, and as soon as they get a chance, opportunity, they're over there saying stuff they shouldn't say. And a lot of times, the wife is initiating it, and a lot of times the wife is initiating the adulterous manner, the adulterous conversation. It's not always the person that's out looking for it, but sometimes the woman herself or the husband herself will initiate the adulterous conversation outside of their marriage, and it's crazy. The last one is you should not covet your neighbor's goods. You go in there and you see your neighbor got a brand new car, a brand new boat, a brand new four wheeler, whatever the case may be, a brand new house. You just sitting in your house, man. Why does he have that? Why does she have that? I want that. They don't deserve that. I work hard. Why can't I have that nice thing? Can't do that. These are just some of the rules. There are a lot more rules in the playbook in the Bible. But in this particular playbook, God gave us a basis, a baseline of rules in the rule book, which is the Bible. But with the rule book, we got to make sure we develop our own playbook, and our playbook should be hand in hand, should be very compatible with God's rule book. If your individual playbook is not compatible with the rule book, then you're doing something wrong. You need to get rid of that playbook that you develop and get you another one. Have a conversation with God. Make sure you and God are on the same page. When you and God aren't on the same page, then you need to change your playbook. And that's just my 2 cents in this particular day. Make sure that your rule book lines up with, make sure that the rule book, which is the Bible, lines up with your playbook. Now, if you run across somebody in your day to day travels, these individuals question your Christianity or question your belief in God or question your belief in the Bible. And they try to shoot holes in the Bible and the beliefs and the blind faith, all the things that God teaches us in God's doctrine. And they ask you why? Why, Danny? Why do you believe in that book? Because is not complete. There's several books that were taken out of that Bible. Why are the books taken out of that Bible? Why are they doing this? What are they trying to hide? If someone is trying to shake your faith and belief in God and belief in the Bible, but this is one thing that you can tell them. You said, look, I choose to believe the Bible because it's a reliable collection of historical documents written down by eyewitnesses during the lifetime of other eyewitnesses. They report to us supernatural events that took place in fulfillment of specific prophecies and claim that their writings are divine rather than human in origin. And that little tidbit of wisdom comes from Pastor Vodi Bakum. Now, if this is the first time you ever viewing my channel, I'm going to ask you to do a few things for me. First thing I'm going to ask you to do is please subscribe to the channel. Then I'm going to ask you to please hit the notification bell because I don't want you to miss any material that I upload in the future. I'm going to also ask you to hit the like button because that helps with the YouTube algorithm. Next, I'm going to ask you to leave a comment because if you leave a comment, I will definitely read it and respond back to you. And if you have any topic about the Bible that you want me to discuss, please leave in the comment. Or if you have my number, text me, and I'll try to come up with a topic, with a show on that particular topic. Also, I want you to watch my videos from the start to the finish because that too also helps with the YouTube algorithm. And last but not least, I want you to share my videos. Share my videos with your friends, share my videos with your family, co-workers, whatever the case may be. It is spread the word of God. That's my job. That's what I want to do. I want to spread the word of God and help people develop a relationship with God. Now, before I get out of here, I want to say one last thing. Some of us don't have a strong prayer life. And if you don't have a strong prayer life, I encourage you to develop one. If you haven't had a conversation with God in quite some time, a day ago, a month ago, a year ago, a decade ago, then please open up your mouth and start that conversation. Because I'm positive that God would love to hear from you and God would love to have that relationship with you. So make sure that you do it today because none of us is promised tomorrow. So I'll be back on Friday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. And I hope you all have a fantastic day. And as always, I love you and God bless you.